Do you think that we are advanced elements?
Advanced elements, what does it mean?
Well, each progression through the universe, the transition stage, is always leading towards more intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So from gas to matter to the advanced elements is where we sort of end up, don't we?
Yeah.
Elements that have a lot more free will
Mm-hmm.
than any others.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Do you think that space is much like this? Particular type of fabric that we sort of wrap around ourselves that give us the existence that we have, and we have a lot of behaviors based upon this fabric that's very moldable. So even if there was, just assuming that it was something that walked among the board
Mm-hmm.
of reality existence,
Yeah.
how could you take it on if you're made from everything of this? But it isn't. It is the raw, authentic version of what you are. Again, now could you capture it? Yes, you could. You could wrap reality all the way around it until it made a figure that presented itself. But to kill it, to release it back into the form in which it originally was in, means that you only did nothing more than attack the layer that you can see and make sense of, which is an interesting thing, right? Now, senses make sense of a lot in the brain, in the mind, in the eyes. We don't see an awful lot of stuff. It's only part of the picture is true, yes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's done based on sensing. So before eyes, there was a sense of something, right? That sense is quite more older, I would say, a sense of something. Rather fitting for something that has no eyes, right? But rather close. So it builds some tools to be able to perceive this a little bit more. Let me give you another example. So if you riz up in a time here, would you know what black holes were? Let's say you rose up here and got an extinct around the 60 mark, yeah?
Yeah.
He never lived on to see the 40 mark, which then started, producing clusters of these. The darkness. You could sense it was there, let's say, something, but you couldn't put your mind on it. Or you would look at the universe and think that it was like this and build a structure upon that. Until you exist at this time, it's an interesting thing. You begin to see it, but not directly see it, right? So now we look up and we see things orbiting certain areas, and why becomes a question. And being advanced, you'll be able to build some tools, right? And you build these tools and you're able to see this stuff. Wait, there is something here. Hold on a second. That might be the same stuff that's inside here, mixed with the stuff that we can see. An invisible layer mixed into the fabric of a visible layer. Very interesting, isn't it? Like build of life, really. It gets completely different, as it always does, when we start to think essence. That's even more. Either or, right? So, continue on with this process of just combining the nothing with the something, and the something becomes apparent. Yes. So you make a tool. What tool were you able to see that with? Microscope, atomic microscope, revealed something. Yes. So you built a tool to be able to see. That's advanced evolution now. So now advanced elements being life forms, yes, animals and different things like that. Now we've got advanced evolution. Wow, this is so many transitions here of this advancement. Fascinating. And it built some tools for you to see. And guess what you went and did? Built some tools to see this darkness a little bit more clearer. Built some tools to see on the atomic level. These tools mean nothing right now. They do mean something in that, wow, that's wonderful. It's not really big time breaking fucking news though, is it? Really, it's not. Might get a mention in a paper and a few people are like, the bedrock of everything. Well, not quite, but still, and just sort of gets a... Here's a question. Those tools come into existence because of why? See, why do you build tools? Any reason, anyone? Well, you could throw out a load of theories as to why you built those tools. Why do you care about the shit that holds your skin together? Why do you care about all of the bloody, bloody, blah, the invisible stuff that you can't see? Just don't worry about it. Because reality plays tricks, and that's what it does. It really does. It hides things from you. Here's another one. Let me just. Do I want to say that one now, or move on to that later? Yeah, we'll go for it now. Okay. Neutrino star, yes? Taking all of that, push, squeeze, push, squeeze. Who knows the colossal force it takes to create a black hole at death? We do know that it is different to any other star that is out there, unique. You can only see the darkness because you've been witnessing bits of information orbit around another piece of information that revealed this piece of hidden information. And then it's XYZ, right? Question is, though, what happens if you took that tool and if you were to make it past the cycle and go back to the beginning with those tools? Make it pretty advanced, wouldn't it? What's that darkness doing before you could see darkness? Now, the only reason why you can see it is because bits of something started to orbit. But in the beginning, where there's lots of stars, and let me tell you something here for a beginner, just a quick hottie. How much radiation do you think there was there in the beginning? Clusters tightly nipped together versus what you experience now. Would have been very intense, wouldn't it? Might have even wiped out a fleet that might have overlooked one small detail of radiation. When it starts getting going, and then so much radiation began, more than you could ever understand, imagine possible, because there's nothing to mop it up. One small planet orbiting a star is enough to dampen it down, to absorb some of this information. But if you rose up when there was a time of planets, you might assume from that point there that that is how everything is, because you've never seen the beginning before, right? Just best guess, yeah? Advanced evolution plays a role here. So you might factor that into all of your equations of that, and then maybe overlook a detail of very lots of little hot spots of radiation everywhere, yeah? More than anticipated, and with nothing to soak it up, nothing to absorb it. How much radiation do you think starts building up with nowhere to go? What's it going to do? Oh, hot spot. Anyway, so black holes, devious, right? Very deceptive universe as it such is. It likes to hide things. We're all built of hydrogen, right? No matter what there is, it's all made of hydrogen, yes?
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing, isn't it? But by the time you could rise up, there might not be much hydrogen left. An abundance of something else, but not so much of this. And oh, perfect. And life gets more intelligent the more it progresses on this spectrum. And yet we find that hydrogen becomes more hidden. That's a fascinating thing. Also this, fascinating. Neutrino star, right before it goes into the phase of just that moment before it pops out a black hole. Assuming you could freeze that son of a bitch, big bastard, right there in that moment, in that climatic moment just before it transitions from point this to black hole and implodes on itself, what do you reckon it made in that moment? You see, here's the thing. Science understands something here. Yeah? So, what were they researching and different stuff, yeah? Playing around and having a little nosy into some certain stuff. And another thought come in the process while I was thinking of this, but anyway, lost my train of thought, so I'm going to go into this new thought anyway. So universe continues. No, I am going to continue with this one. So when doing fusion, they are able to go beyond what the universe can go, and then there's this problem appear. This massive, unsolvable freaking problem. And then all of a sudden, they do a little bit more of the unusual stuff and perhaps tweak it a little bit more, and then it jumps to an island and perhaps maybe jumps on further. But this bit here, fucking no idea. What the hell is all of that stuff? Question mark, right? But you're thinking about neutrino, right? Now, in the beginning, if you just rose up and never saw a neutrino, and therefore never saw darkness, we wouldn't have a very accurate model of the universe and how it perhaps might work, right? So just before the neutrino begins to collapse down on itself, I wonder, that's as a star phase, yeah? What type of squish do you reckon that creates? And then how far does that jump? And you'll never know. Why? Because as soon as a neutrino goes, it implodes, right? Sort of implodey type, but more implode wins, yeah? Anything that it made in that freaking moment is lost. And that's like hydrogen is into everything, right? It's almost like it's scripted to know. Oh yeah, but when you experience this, you're going to do, and then the information is hidden. It dies with the neutrino, right? Naturally, then you wouldn't ever know these elements ever existed if they ever were to. The question would be, why do you hide those out the way? There are certain things in life that just seem to be hidden out of the way, but with not much push and intelligence, you can begin to, you might not be able to see that, but this way you begin to see it very quickly, and argues the fact of why do you become intelligent and life should get more intelligent. It's done nothing but progress to intelligence, and why would the thing that want to be hidden make it? Never mind, but even still. So hydrogen could be coded into a way of when you experience this pressure and you experience this, you do this. When you experience this as this, you do this. When you experience this with this, you do this. Same to be said if it meets a black hole. Yeah, you're to do this. I already got the information in. But at a moment when there's a lot of mass exerted on a star, might make the star create things that perhaps are harder to unpick. Or, who knows, hiding something. For, after all, intelligence is how it is. You look at these things and explore and find these things out, and perhaps, goody, there's a great reward, or there's a great big angry God. How dare you leave the planet? I'm pretty sure it's not that. But even still, right? Just assuming, little breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
What happens if you could stop that neutrino at that moment to find out what those transitions are? Is there going to be resources inside that? And assuming at a colossal size it may be, and everything else that you may be able to understand or trying to even dig into this stuff, who knows? You make a super diamond somewhere. And you actually get into the neutrino, and somewhere in there, the elements begin to change in stuff that you've maybe never seen. I know we've been cooking this in a laboratory, and don't get me wrong, it's brilliant, right? That you're able to get to go from one place to another, which I believe nature will probably follow this same course. But however, if I'm comparing this to the same way that you make diamonds, and come on, Rudolph, come on, I gotta make a gold joke, come on. Yeah, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be similar. I agree. But compared to the diamond, the similar is good. However, when it stands the test, the diamond wins. This one puts up a fight, but sadly, the diamond truly wins. So something along that sort of line. Now, have we made it accurate? Maybe. Is the reason why it doesn't hold together is the same way diamonds don't quite form together, despite the sheer this, the sheer. So we'd have to look at that and think, would a neutrino, just curious, right before it implodes, perhaps is going to release a secret that perhaps the universe may not want anybody to know, right? And poof, decide to implode. That's interesting. And then begin to take this information back to unpick, to revert, so the hydrogen responds like this, and all life is perhaps moved, reset in this moment. Here's something for you. You hear about the Big Bang, right? Have you heard about the Big Implosion?
No.
Oh. Hey, do you reckon that the universe perhaps sometimes explodes and implodes?
Yeah.
And it's a big bang and it's a big implosion. Now, can I ask you a second thing? Have you ever heard of the Big Implosion?
No.
It's interesting, right? The universe already imploded on itself and it's going to implode again. And how so? Well, if it's holding all of these things back and there's a large layer of all of this stuff that is around, I'm going to call it the space atmosphere. I call it the Unisphere.
Yeah.
It's space is an atmosphere, right? So we're about this much pressurized shite versus this much of an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem weird, doesn't it? Seems very strange, that, doesn't it? And we're a very small amount of matter, in fact, that we can perceive, work with, that we can see so far. I mean, if we went back with some of our tools and the universe began to repeat, could you imagine going back with those advanced evolution with those tools to be able to see the darkness before the darkness even came together, before anything else knew. Any other life form that was out there would know that the darkness would already exist, because this is following indeed a pattern. And that would make you advanced. What's more, what happens when you see it at that moment? When there's higher levels of perhaps radiation, maybe more heat, more. How do you reckon it would all look then? What's it doing in those moments? You see, there's the missing part of the story. That we got the story already made, right? Pre-made for us. We never see it. But then when you go forward with these tools, a bit like your sensors, these tools, I mean, are we going to question what we're seeing? Because we may be able to start questioning, is reality even real? I don't know. It seemed to have built some pretty fucking good receptors around it, didn't it? And then you built some receptors around those receptors, which is even more fascinating, don't you think? Building these tools to allow you to see this darkness, and perhaps if you begin to see it, and the only reason why you can see it is because the universe is kind of slipping up a little bit, just a smidge. It's kind of like, hey, look at this. And something sounds like that. Like, shh, have you seen this beautifully bright thing over here? No, you haven't seen that. What about this? We want to go to that thing. What's that dancing? Look at these big tornadoes coming out. Quasar or whatever. I think it's going the other way, actually. Cycling in. Fascinating, right? What a distraction. Hey, anything but just look over here. Right? We're moths, yeah? Lured by that. Interesting. Still fascinating. And also neutrinos, perhaps dying with some secrets, do you think? Anyway, what would you think after defusing all of this stuff back to a gas? What do you think that makes the overall neutrality of this stuff that we can't see? It seems to be on 0.0, but from our perspective, it seems that 0.0 is not a good place to be. So it passes through minus, which we would say -1, which the universe would then hit at, which creates black holes to reverse everything that is done. Now, when it gets to the final, to create an instability, what happens when it's done all defusing and there's nothing left to orbit it? It becomes the center of mass itself, doesn't it? Which it can't exist like that. Why? Well, that's making something that is depressurized into something that is pressurized, although appears not to be, and something in the center might start to push outwards. And perhaps this squishing and expansion in the core of two different types of medium perhaps start to create this instability, which begin to knock the hydrogen into a state of perhaps isotopes, which then get it very aggravated, and one gives in. However, that is explosion turns in the neutrality into mostly empty space, and it leaves us with a small amount of percentage of matter. But could you imagine if it imploded? What way round would that go?
I don't know.
You see, that's an interesting thing. Now, would it be reversed, that the empty space would be filled with matter? And the matter would perhaps be reverted into empty space? I mean, could you build a whole concept off of that?
I see.
Fascinating, isn't it? Like to think that it can go both ways, and this whole universe seems to be screaming this whole process at us. Even nature, even though it's only half active for a certain percentage of year that we are aware of, seems to also speak of this. It's interesting that the way that it grows is fascinatingly eerily similar to perhaps the universe. Like, so you take some wood, solid. Solid. Never mind how it got this solid. Well, let's have a look at that. Maybe it's absorbing carbon to build a good bonds in order for it to build the main course of it, yeah? So it's absorbed that and held onto it, and perhaps leaked out some oxygen in the process, and holding onto this stuff, storing it for better for later. It's a little bit advanced though. If you were to take that and burn it, you are then converting now a solid. So it's taken a gas and it's converted it into a solid, and you're now taking a solid and you're converting it by burning it into a gas. The tree, perhaps, not this one, most certainly not, but other species can then utilize to become a tree. Isn't that sort of the very interesting sort of cycle there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
To think about the universe too is a fascinating one. So a solid into a gas and a gas into a solid, and nature seems to get somewhere. There's a massive explosion with the flower, and perhaps there's a fruit, and then it drops off and gone. Right? Gotcha. Anything else? Right, you could probably look at this pattern and apply it there. Maybe you read too much into things. Who knows? X, Y, Z. But still a very fascinating sort of process nonetheless. And if the gases remained consistent in this, there's also purification to everything, isn't there?
Yeah.
The burning bush, we can take it from that. If the seed was capsulated and indeed protected, and as nature has, could you imagine the cleansing in this unit? If it was just the tree exchanging this slow burn versus this regrowth versus this burn, which purified any mites, any bacteria. You see there's this sort of wipening happen where it sort of wipes the slate clean and could I mean, how long in that environment of cycling like that could it, and therefore the next generation keep into the new changes that have come? And the faster that it is, do you reckon that the more of these changes it can,
The past that changes, doesn't it?
which then triggers rapid cloning, which again is more advanced. You know, if you're going from advanced elements to advanced evolution, what would you call that capability? You know, it seems to be getting even more intelligent, even more evolution. Yeah. Looking at the universe as face value, I think just as it is, it teeters off that way and it also goes off that way. You know, both of these go into shadow, the unknown.
Yeah.
But you perfect your tools, start to look at it, this stuff reveals itself. My curiosity is in the beginning of this cycle indeed, and you follow that, and you bring all of these tools, and if there are any more tools added along the way to our development as being evolution and different stuff like that, then so be it. But if you began to watch it again in these moments where you now know moral certainty, darkness is in existence, you begin to look for it, you see it, what's it do? Oh, it seems to be doing this. Your level of understanding increases again. Yes, but ever imagine that instability that pushes outwards, which then causes the neutral to also push out, which then causes explosion, big bang, but it could also pull it inwards, which could it then turn the hydrogen into a neutral and turn all of the neutral into a type of hydrogen, which I would say reverse hydrogen, which is an interesting thing, isn't it? Could you imagine going backwards in the periodic table? I mean, that would really confuse life forms that we're meant to remember over time, wouldn't it? That would really wipe the data clean, so to speak, wouldn't it? So whether it implodes or explodes, big bang or big implosion, either way. Could you imagine trying to navigate in an environment like that? It's quite suffocating. I can assure you, man, there's some weird sort of... it's just one to think about. Why? Because it's just very strange, but still. That's an interesting amount of tools there, isn't it? And you could also build to prevent. Could it or could it not? And therefore, if we see exploding star and imploding star, what's the pattern there? And then the overall pattern of the universe, point A, point B, if it is a cycle, it's still going to recycle one versus the other? Or is it dependent on which one wins? Wouldn't be a bad balance to upset, really, would it? Or would it? If you could take indeed something out of it, transform it, do you think it would be more likely to recycle this way and explode as opposed to implode? Depends on what rises up to be able to knock the balance to make it more favorable in this way. Because when you begin to understand that sort of stuff, I wonder what you could do. And again, the black hole imploding, oof, what is it doing? What at that moment, if you could just... Again, you would need to understand also a lot of cooling, but in order to understand the star, to be able to get into the star, you would probably need to understand a lot of cooling, and you might look to the black hole. Either one you investigate, it's the reverse of it to be able to understand the other force entirely. So if we look at star and then we look at black hole, we look at pressure and lots of heat, and we look at black hole depressurization in different layers, and we have lots of cooling. Things become very brittle in this state. So perhaps lots of that, one way versus the other. So, indeed, almost like breathing in, out. Universe, one way versus maybe another way.
Yeah.
Which one would you prefer to live in? You spend a whole life wishing for more, and then when you get it, you spend the whole time wishing for less. And then when you get it, you spend the whole time wishing for more. Yeah. Man, what an eternity, just back and forth, back and forth in that sort of rhythm of just...
It's always there.
Manifest. Anyway, it's a fascinating thing. And then what about the neutral ground? And each of these timelines of one versus the other can also feed into the other. That's a fascinating thing that when you draw these out, you know, I was trying to process this of which way it could possibly go to recycle.
Anyway.
And it went in implode or explode. So we can play around with the periodic table here, but there is an inward and an outward way of looking at that periodic table, which divides it into two. So if it pops inward, it divides into two. A one way and another way of doing it, but in this fashion, or it then implodes and goes this way, which is completely different in this periodic table as plus and minus in a very bizarre fashion. And it gives you a cycle of 4. It's confusing, but it works. So there you are. You do with that whatever you want to. If there's some new mind data that you ever want to sort of devour, much as you have the 2 here, 2 twins, one versus the other. Boy, girl, whatever you want to do, what you need to. But there's also a middle ground between the two, a neutral. So if one pushes up, it converts what was into nothing and what wasn't into something. And if it goes the other way, it creates what is into what isn't and what isn't into what is. It was almost like someone challenged God and was like, hey, God. And it was like, yo, what's up? Do you want to build a whole new reality around that? I do. I was only taking a piss. No, I seriously do. I think that's a fucking fantastic idea. Promote this one, but I was taking a piss. Anyway, still, that's how I got my wings. No, I'm just trying to understand that sort of stuff. But there is a neutral ground. That's a fascinating... to be affected by neither, which would be a bizarre thing, because how would your behavior shape? Well, then you would then be shaping your own behaviors, wouldn't you? What would that look like? How would that look? Because you're living in this gives you a sense of purpose, doesn't it? Either one or the other. Being in a neutral ground, what does it give you? Well, it gives you a purpose. Fucking hell, doesn't it give you a purpose? But what does that purpose look like? Well, key is in the beholder. But do you really want it? And the neutral ground is brilliant because it's the best of both. And why would the best of both be brilliant? Oh, it's the best of more, by the way. But then what is this neutral ground? Can we follow this? Why, yes, it looks like a ladder. Why, there's more clues here. Oh, for fuck's sake. You think it was the first time or something? Now this? No, I don't think so. It's you. But, you know, when you traverse through there, just call me or something, you know? Or don't. Never. Get to the end of it, maybe. Complacency. But even still, either or. And then you would have to build a shell within a shell to be able to cope with that. That's times 2. And then how the fucking hell did you know this? How the hell? Wait, because of this crazy bastard over here talking about this on a planet that I've never heard of. It's called Earth, by the way. Yeah, that place. Could you imagine that? And because of all of that sort of paranoia, we wrapped a whole reality around it. And thank goodness we did. Yeah, you just explained our whole existence, didn't you? Trails off and on. Yeah, that seems our existence. Don't it? Well, why are we going this way? What is shaping us? Yes, a lot of it collective, individual, and so forth, clusters and everything else. Yes, that is shaping it, largely. But the undercurrent that shapes it, what is that? The one that separates animals, stars. Could you imagine this? If stars were like, I quit, that's it. I need to build me something. I need to have a sauna. Come here, black hole. They all sort of bathe round it like the Romans, you know. Stop being stars for a bit. Planet's like, we're taking a chill. Eternity is here for all of us. Come on. Hey, yo, my crops. Yeah, in a bit. Come on. Come on. Anyway, unrealistic, but still very funny. Could you imagine that disobedience would not work, would it? So maybe a small amount of disobedience with a large amounts of lots of obedience kind of works really well, yeah? Mm-hmm. Gonna unlock this star. Is the star even alive? Well, yes, it's kind of made up of pretty much what we are, probably just a little bit more less than that. I heard that, I know, forgive me, for I have definitely sinned. And, you know, it's built with a lot of stuff, yeah? All of these things coming together in the process of coming together, transforming from one to another, and it's also aging. Be sure that's not alive. A bit like you are a collection of a lot of that coming together. Could you ever imagine the first dialogue with a star? If you could talk to a star, no, it's a little bit out there, but still. Are you really alive? Are you fuckers alive? You know, based up, if it had a language, I'm assuming that it probably doesn't. It probably speaks a lot of star. And probably you go over there. Okay, that's interesting. You probably order things, do you think? So there needs to be some level of order, and then humans are separate from that because they are unlocked from that, yes? Mm-hmm. And then there's a particular direction and a particular behavioral direction, and we're sort of, you know... Could you imagine if you took that essence of life, and let's say we stripped it all the way back to... We know that life grows from somewhere, yes? Mm-hmm. Whether from this cycle, another cycle, or it rises up each and every time, and what the hell is this? There's so many each and every single time, right? Mm-hmm. What the actual fuck? Anyway, just assuming that is. Let's say if you could get that life form right there in its infinite, because you know it, you are it. It's pretty much a lot of things. And we know that the whole uni beauty is converting everything with behavior, yes? It's affecting us, all of this data is coming in, and perhaps it's like, I don't know, you know, there's a little bit of death, there's a little bit of stress, there's a lot of things coming in, yeah? It's shaping us behavior. You should really go to bed. Why? Because it's dark. Sensors don't work very well. It's probably the best way of your unconscious. Anything happens, you're sleeping in. For a long time. Oh. Are you sure unconscious is the way to be? Yes, absolutely. I've scanned about. And most of the things are unconscious at the same time you are. So we're good. Sleep when they sleep. You know, it's sort of... Let's say you could grab that life in its very infinite, very early stages. Just before the universe has a chance to grab that life form and shape it around all of this cluster of just... What do you reckon what it would do if you could take it out and subject it to an environment that you have made? I definitely ain't getting in that. Are you seeing them life forms in there? Did you see the way they were? Look at what they're doing. I'm pretty sure this is the environment doing this. Brings a whole new meaning to the word as sociology. Great big stoics of sociology mixed in with a little bit of psychology. This will be a new type of politics. One side and the other. Fucking hell, this will be great. And the ones in the middle. I'll walk the middle. Perhaps. Maybe. I like that. Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah. Still, this would begin to shape a behavior of life form unshaped by the universe. I mean, assuming that it got wiped in this and you survived it, assuming that it is a cycle. And there's a lot of assumptions here. Don't mean to make a jackass out of any of us. And you take that life, you find it because you understand it, a bit like you understand the darkness. Wait, what the fucking hell is going on here? Oh, that's a bit more interesting information coming in and perhaps changes you a little bit more. Plus with this, oh, look, this is life. We understand this. Oh my God, we've been looking for this. Holy Grail, way. Woo. What's it doing? Oh my God, it's really weird. Did we come from that? Yes, son. Yes, we did. In some weird sort of way, you know? So anyway... You take that and then you're like, you know what? I know better than this universe. Okay, let's prove it then, side by side. Universe, beautiful. Let's leave it for a bit. And here's your environment. Let's try and put the life in there to try and make it on its way to build up. Let's say you got intelligent life then, maybe. Wait, these are a little bit more intelligent. And then once again, their impressionable minds are perhaps not quite influenced, but influenced enough that takes the hassle-free out of, you know, babysitting. Yeah. Build the environment once again with these a little bit more. What happens if you drop them in there? Your environment now begins to shape them.
Yeah.
I wonder how they respond. What happens if you give them more light? What happens if you give those light forms more light? Do they actually sleep at all?
Yeah.
Clearly they needed it in this particular time, which is irony, is fascinating. The time before planets. Where they're a clusterfuck of stars, right? They're like eggs. Yeah, very strange hue. Interesting light. Still. Could you imagine having life emerging then? It would respond very differently to how it is now. Would it know what sleep is? You know, go to sleep. What do you lot do? We would just start talking to them and go, yeah, see you tomorrow, mate. Life forms that don't know what sleep is, yeah? We sort of like, hi, we're aliens, yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And then we disappear and go and get into a bed somewhere. And these things are like, wait, what? What are they doing? We just had a conversation. Wait, hold on. Assuming that they understand time. Let's hope they're not counting by the nanos. And then you come back in and you're like, yo, we continue off. They would find this moments of you opening and shutting much like a flower. Oh. And then you'll be looking at them like, wait, have you even been asleep? You assume that they sleep, they'll assume that you stay awake. I mean, somewhere in the line is the middle. I'll walk there. Maybe. Yeah, no, I'll go there. Why not? That would be a weird situation to be in, yeah? And perhaps life affected them in a different way. Maybe the planet didn't even rotate. Lazy bloody planet. Come on, we could at least rotate a little bit. Assuming that there's life there. So perhaps this life is very moldable environment, and it would answer a question, wouldn't it? Do we need to sleep? Do we need to be awake? Do we need to eat? Is there another way? Is it based on environment? I mean, fundamentally shaping the way life. If you took two specimens and assuming that you could make clones, and you cloned one version in yours and one in reality, I mean, you've now got, well, there is a hell of a contrast here. It's like making diamonds. What did that fella say back in those days? Well, here's ours. It's a bit shit, and there's that. It's pretty good. We got a long way to go. Wait, sensitive. Yeah, I know, you know, sort of. Yeah. But no, I think black holes, before they explode, I think they implode, and I think that there's something there. But perhaps it doesn't, you know. Could you imagine living in a whole universe like this, sort of remembering and perhaps getting really good and all of this sort of stuff, and never paid any notice to it, and the secrets be right there inside that moment, figuring out how to freeze that. And then by doing so, you also know how to heat up one of those, which I don't know. How do you want to be heated? What do you do if you're heated? I mean, that's interesting. Fascinating. Did we talk about this the last time? Maybe we did. Where you take two negatives from energy and smack them together in a hadron. We did. I think we did.
Yes, we did.
There's something about that. That was fascinating, sort of. And do you think black holes actually pull on light? Or do you think they pull on other black holes? Do you think one's a giver and one's a receiver?
I don't know. I don't know about that.
One stays fixed and says no, but sort of, I can sort of, well, yeah, well, considering you're doing that, I can do something with this. Do you think the black holes use the starlight? They can't actually directly eat the stars, can they? Because they orbit. But if they learn to, so therefore, it's a bit like the shark, right? It has a sort of sucker around it, doesn't it? Always it has another fish orbiting around somewhere, yes? For the shark. So black holes seem to be like this. Perhaps can't directly. And every time they go to eat a star, it's like, yeah, not this time. Yeah, not this time. Sort of, you know, tormenting it quite a lot. So it's going to go for the next best thing, right? How's it going to get that? So if it is trying to devour it, and perhaps it can't eat them as the way it would like to. It wants a great big meal, but the stars are just like grains of sand. I suppose this will do. And it will eat the neutral stuff, which this gets fascinating. Even its eating habits are a bit like humans, and both are kind of in reverse. It's interesting. So stars feast mainly on, what, let's say hydrogen in a particular beginning. But they'll also eat matter too. And it's kind of like lots of veg with a little bit of meat. The black holes, however, they're more like, wait.
Yeah.
We like an incredible amount of meat. But, partial to a bit of veg. I suppose the other one's a bit more prey and predator, so to speak, in the sort of one feeds the other. That's a fascinating thing. Seeds, either or, but still. Sort of pattern everywhere, isn't it? Core, what would you be if behavior didn't shape you? That would be fascinating. Yeah, right, I'm probably going to leave it there, actually. I'm going to lose my train of thought, if not. I've got more I want to cover on these sort of things, but probably later, but still. So yeah, the universe begins, and what that neutral nothingness turns into somethingness when somethingness that was converted from a lot of gas.
Yeah.
So we go from mass to gas, from gas to mass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and both time hydrogen is interwoven into everything. And is it really hydrogen, or is it some supercharged radioactive version of being in this pressurization and being closer to the core, which equals to a certain amount of percentage, that aggravates this neutralness at one particular time, that charges it up enough to get so aggravated that it changes its form? So we think about on the verge of being barely neither, a sort of neutral, which is kind of non-existing, isn't it? It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But also this neutralness into getting to that stage always pops over one or always pops under one, which creates the pluses that run. And whether popping this way, it still runs to a cycle that always winds down to lead on to easy popping to another. A hell of a roller coaster, isn't it?
Yeah.
Figure of 8 now turned into a monster of a ride. 2 8s, interesting, but still, whatever you need it to be. So, yeah, I'm going to leave this one here. So, and they made pottery back in the ancients, didn't they?
Yeah.
Do you think they ever played around with sand too, being able to kiln anything?
Yeah, sandstone. Why wouldn't they play with sand if they played with stones? They built nice stone structures, didn't they?
So the matter turned into gas becomes very big in volume, but stored into all black holes that are very selfish and also very cannibalistic in nature that come together. They can't also feast on their own stars around them only subtly. Begs the question of what is traveling. The neutral nothingness beyond the star, which courses through the star and collects perhaps the light of the star, which then makes it visible. This object hits into something, which then the mass can't travel through, but this neutral nothing finds its way through the neutral nothings of what perhaps is embedded into everything. It's this way it finds it through. This sort of gobbles in this slowly. And if the black hole happens to capture anything in this process, perhaps it will gobble it in this particular siphoning. Slowly but surely, right? Small meal, but lastable. Keeps you alive long enough. But perhaps it has a pull that reaches out to the other stars, perhaps pulls these. And maybe the other black hole probably has got the same problem and perhaps directs some of this energy towards it, which allows it to lock onto it, to feed it, so it's almost following a light trail. And the other one is trying to target the light, perhaps energy, perhaps in such a way that it allows these to come together, which forces them to come together in order for them to have a big Christmas feast. Because now that they're starting to merge, they don't want it to be superly chaotic because they need that constant supply in order to maintain existence. But the ones that do hit in that process, that don't quite sort their magnetism out in time, that's a big feast. That's it. Because stars are kind of like, oh, get away from me. Get away from me. You, over there. You, if you're going to come close, make it short and sweet. It likes the very, the black hole's like, you can orbit me as much as you want. And while it's orbiting, is it pulling on the black hole? And that makes ask another question, That's a very interesting sort of force. Certain distance versus pull versus gravitation is interesting. So I wonder if they're each feeding one another. There again, beg to differ. And in that smasharoonie, they eat quite a bit. Then they come to a final size, which makes them speed up in process, actually, as they get like this. Then they got to wait for the few off bits to sort of formulate in, and then there's an instability, nothing to orbit. what does it become? Well, an atmosphere, doesn't it, technically? Becomes something. It's centralizing around something.
Yeah.
Now you've got a metallic, not a metallic liquid, but more like perhaps a very hydrogen-y isotope, and maybe even more of a neutrally. And one pushes while one pushes back. And perhaps now space has become, well, the matter's now on the inside, isn't it? Well, if we want to call it matter being gas, it's now on the inside, as opposed to everything being on the outside of it. And this now push from the inside, pull, push, pull. One's going to win at this, and it's going to aggravate the other. Now one's being forced to be something that it can't be.
Yeah.
And the other one's trying to force the other one that it can't be, and then boom, the process starts again. Perhaps, maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But the way they come together, I don't know. Perhaps they are locking into each other, and they really do get connected, but that vast distance, then does that mean that anything in between this field here and this field here means that while they're traveling towards each other, two galaxies, it's very calm, because anything that travels through that gets swallowed by evil, or I don't know. You could always ask that question. And there sort of seems to be a safety zone. So they don't want to annihilate all of the stars. Most of the dance is a pretty delicate dance. And most of the stars and planets are unharmed. And I believe that some of the star planets without magnetic fields perhaps get quite violently in that, whereas opposed to the planets with magnetic fields, perhaps forces that come in can maneuver around each other. Maybe even star systems can even grow. And maybe this creates binary systems. Maybe even trinary. Who knows? They perhaps find their comfortable orbit by orbiting one another. Maybe it gets more chaotic and more meteorites fly. Who knows? But still, in the beginning where it is very chaotic, the black holes are going to feed and feast. Just before they merge, they need that energy. So that's the irony. Until there becomes the final. And a few remnants of matter left. That's all on the outside. That's now assuming that there is an outside. But once it's all gone, and let's say the neutral dark energy matter that we cannot perceive, that we cannot see, do we need to see it if we can already build the tools? Can we already perceive something in this? Advanced evolution, and we're nothing more than doing this, that what evolution already did to provide you with eyes, right? There's more. There's definitely more. I feel it. I just know. Here's some eyes. This is better. Yeah, this is kind of what I'm feeling. And now you're like, wait, there's definitely something happening over here. Why? Well, this is all so uniform. Is there something in the middle there? Start to have a look. Wait, there is something in the middle there. Holy shit. It was made from stars? Yeah. And the stars are maintaining it.
Yeah.
Also, yes. And the remnants of star guts feed it. Yeah. So cannibal, if you want to go there. Also, yes. I mean, that's a lot of interesting processes right there, yeah? So it understands magnetism, so it understands the star, because, hey, black hole, how do you know so much about these fucking stars? Because I used to be one. How do you know so much about the moons? Because I was one. Okay, planets, I also was one. All of the elements, I am them. That's interesting. Yeah, know it well, huh? And then it might create a star in its final form, or we wouldn't understand it as a star, but perhaps a liquid star of some gases, a gas star, that gets unstable with one another, this sort of uniform nothingness with this somethingness in this. What we perceive as nothingness is actually something and causes an effect under these circumstances, and it all acts like this. Now, who taught you? Because I thought you taught all of this, and now all of a sudden, you're responding to something and behaving under these circumstances like this. These circumstances, wow, that's all very hidden, isn't it? Fascinating. Now, if it could pop out or in, well, I'd like to be on the odds, probably prefer this. Empty space is easier to deal with than full. Damn me. Oh, anyway, it brings a whole new meaning to everything. You probably shouldn't be chewing that. Don't take my word for it. Have fun. No, I'm just kidding. It's nothing that bad. What are you doing? Anyway, so, yeah, let's wind this down. Good. Wonderful chat. Yeah.